An easy way to make your painting series look cohesive is to take inspiration from your existing pieces. Let me show you how. Hi there, I'm Janine. I'm an artist and I share my creative journey on this channel. I've been working on a series of paintings that includes lots of different sizes. So far, the smallest ones really spark something that I want to translate onto my larger work too. Let's look at the elements I like and how we can add some of those to the other pieces.
Today I want to work on my medium-sized paintings. These are a few of the small pieces of my current series that I'm working on. There's a few things emerging here that I quite like and want to transfer to the larger pieces. One thing is there's a lot of lightness over what was already there, over the background. So for example, this here, just adding a lot of light color but still letting bits shine through. Same here. And what I also like is not having it just the beigey color, but having here it's mixed with a light blue, and here it's all this blue. So I think what I could do is add a more neutral color first and then glaze over it so it'll look a bit more like that. I might experiment with both options, glazing over the neutral paint and going straight in with a more colorful light paint. I also really love this one that's quite a bit more colorful, but what I'm noticing is that even though it looks very colourful, it's actually only got a few bits of colour. Like this looks like it's a large pink area, but you see it's only really got pink, bright pink here and there. And then it's mainly a more muted down version of the colours. And also it's mainly orange tones. So this orange and then pink and yellow, which is either side of the orange on the colour wheel, and only tiny bits of blue, but the blue is so muted that you barely notice it. So overall, these are a lot more muted in colour. And another thing I really like is this kind of, a lot of them have a strip of more solid colour. Like this one's got this yellow, this one's got this little bit here, which I'm not keen on the shape, but I like that it's got something here. And then also this little strip on the side. Same here actually, this has also got more of a solid or one colour strip. So I might start introducing that into some of the pieces. I've also made some collage papers, and I filmed it all for you, so there's a video linked up here. Most of the effects I like on here are made with a jelly plate, but on the larger pieces it's a bit more difficult because I don't have a jelly plate that's that large or anything that I can use like a jelly plate. So I made a few collage papers with a jelly plate, so I could maybe try some of those, especially the ones with the more softer textures. Or I could even try and use a brayer directly on the canvas and see if that kind of gives a similar effect, because that's how I achieved these jelly plate effects.
So I'm going to start with the obvious thing, which is adding some light colour. I might use a smaller brush, not a big brush, to add a bit more texture. This kind of a lightish blue colour. I'm just seeing if there's anything that I definitely want to keep. I do really like the textures on this side here, and also this, basically the sides. Maybe I'll just go over these bits here. And I'm making some areas more solid and some not so much. And then while it's wet, I'm going to go in with another light colour. This one's a bit more yellow. Kind of mix those together. Just warming up some areas with this warmer colour. There's a little bit here that I liked, so I'm going to scrape that away again. This cutterless blade. We do the same on a few other bits. Again, scrape away a little bit here. Now I'm kind of squinting my eyes to see where there's very distracting darker bits. Might have to leave it for a bit to be able to see it. And then later I might glaze over some of the areas to make them a little bit lighter overall as well. It's very purple. So I think I'm going to add a bit of burnt umber glaze. I might need to wipe some of that off. A rag is also a great tool for glazing. Makes quite a smooth surface, but also soaks in a lot of paint. All these purple bits are a lot too cool for what I want to do here. And in some of the darker areas, I'm just going to use some pure burnt umber. Just leave tiny bits of that pink. Now I don't like the colour over here, and of course it's very messy in the middle. I might get my catalyst wedge out for some scraping and then add some light colour so I get sort of effects like I've got here. I think this area needs to be lighter too. I really like this bit where I stopped and the edge isn't as straight and it stopped right where it's still a little bit dark. And also this texture actually. I think this area needs to be lighter. Also this colour here I really don't like. Something needs to be more solid, so maybe just this bit. I like that there's still a bit of red on the brush, and I like this bit lighter, slightly cooler bit here. I think I'm just not liking the cool blue here. I need to leave that one and think about it. It's quite messy, so I'm going to start to darken this area here, and I'm going to use that pre-mixed blue colour again with some glazing fluid. I think you already know how this game goes. Just use a lot of glazing fluid and water and glaze over everything, and then you can still see the lovely textures. And with this brush I am getting a lot of brush strokes, but I can just go over it afterwards with a smoother colour. Maybe mix a hint of that pastel blue into that. I think I'm going to switch to that makeup brush I like, just because it makes a much smoother finish, at least in some of the areas. I think I want to go up here a little bit, so I'll try and scrape that. Created an interesting line down here. Don't know if I like that either.
Yeah, I think I'll get rid of some of that. Also up here, I think there's just a bit too much going on, so I'll just add some of that darker blue, just a touch. I think all of this needs a lot of smoothing, so I want to add the lighter colour here. Well, I do like the kind of textured look that we've got here. See if I can do that also with this brush. Use a different brush, bristly brush. I do like some of the textures it's just created. Actually, I quite like that. I'll try. Maybe this one, but not this. And then I also want to make this bit a bit more solid and add that colour. Also, these two bits I think are quite distracting. And also these, I really like the textures, but they are a little bit too prominent. Then here there's this little beige bit that's a bit confusing. So I think this needs a bit more darkness, but I'll leave it to dry and then reflect on that later.
This one's very colourful and I do actually really like that. So I'm wondering if I should try something more like this one. Because here I really like the colourfulness, but it had a lot more muted colour on top. And also it focused on only two primary colours really. So either I'm going to get rid of the blue or the yellow or the red. I think I definitely want to keep yellow as a colour, so I'm either going to make it cooler or warmer. I think I'm going to get rid of the blue to make it more of an orangey one, because that was the original idea I had, but I do really like the texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glaze over this, and for that I've got some glazing fluid, which I will mix with this pre-mixed yellow colour that I've got. Just kind of a muted orangey yellow. And use this old brush. Actually, for glazing I probably want a slightly larger brush so I don't see as many brush strokes. I'm just going to add a layer over the blue areas and just leave tiny little bits. Hopefully it'll look a little bit more transparent when it's dry as well. It's a bit of water. I'm just going to leave this little bit of blue. I actually really like it against this light pink. I add that in some other places, it's already here as well. I might add a bit more solid colour as I go further down here. It's obviously turned quite green for now, but we can adjust that with more layers. And I do want it to be a bit more muted in those areas. Also, these light ones here are a little bit distracting, so I'm going to glaze over those. I'll attempt to add some more colour to the green areas. So now I might try actually also this red. And maybe, do I want some glazing? Yeah, I think I still want the glazing fluid. I can even mix it a bit with that yellow that's still on my palette. Quite like this bit being a bit different from that. I'm going to add some just plain colour without glazing fluid for some more solid areas. Go over some of this pink, I think it's a bit much, especially on the side here. Also add some down here, just to change the colour a little bit. I think I do want something a little bit warmer like this as well, like I had before. I do have some burnt umber in my palette that I could just add into some of the colours, which is quite warm. Might do that for here. This is the burnt umber I'm using, by the way, by Daler Rowney. I'll mix that with some of the yellow. I say yellow, it's not really yellow, but it's out of my pre-mixed colours, it's the most yellowish. Yeah, that's not a good colour. But again, I can just go over it later. Maybe add some of this pinky red in. I'm tempted to add some lighter swirly marks. If you can see here, this has got a lot of like swirly marks, and then like here, and they also scrape through. I wonder how I could achieve that. I'll add a little bit more colour. Actually, I think I'm going to take some of the lighter colour and then go through that with this skewer. It's quite different, but some of the marks are quite good. I'm going to get rid of some of that. So there's just a little bit left. And now I think these light areas are actually too cold. So I want to put a little bit of a glaze with the light colour over that. I think this bit here, those yellow marks, are very distracting. So I want to maybe use also the pinky brown that I've just used on the other one to kind of cover those. A little bit at least. And then also maybe this colour, continue that over here. I don't think that was mixed, that was a leftover colour that I had before, but I can make something kind of similar. Just probably similar to the one I mixed just now, that orangey colour. Just with the pre-mixed yellow and the pink. And then also cover some of these marks here. And then I think some of these blue marks are a bit too much. So add a bit of the brown. There's no white on it. Looks like it. But this one doesn't. I'll just have to wipe it a bit. I don't want the value to completely disappear. Just want to make the colour a bit more muted. So already better. And then I also think these yellow ones here are quite distracting. So maybe I'll try and go in with this kind of bluish colour. Actually, let's try and use that blue that I had earlier, the pre-mixed one with the brown. I'll just use pure mixture of that colour. It's a bit dark, but if I spread it out thinly, then it'll become more of a glaze. I need a different brush. This one's a bit too brown. And again, I don't have to cover everything. I think this section up here could be darker. It could be kind of this colour, which again is brown with magenta. So you see all the colours are getting a bit more harmonious now. I'm using quite a lot of the same colours across the different pieces. I'll tie them together a bit more. Maybe a hint of that blue as well to make it darker. It's quite a bit darker, this bit actually. I think that's already much better compositionally, just having that dark area up here. White bit hiding on my palette. I'll either embrace or remove, but I think I'll quite like it now. Do I want that anywhere else? Let's add a little bit down here. Now this light area is a bit lonely. I think now that I've made this bit darker, I want to kind of add lightness to this whole bottom section here. The question is, what kind of colour do I use for that? I do have those few pre-mixed light colours. I don't think I want the blue. I think the bluish one is too icy. I think I'll try this more neutral, slightly pink colour. And I'll get this wider brush. Probably mix into this, which might be quite nice. So it'll have a different effect where the paint was dry underneath, like here, opposed to where it was wet down here. Scrape a little bit away to get some texture. I also want to make it a bit more transparent. Kind of to join this little one and the big one all together. Definitely want it to be less opaque for now. This could even be a bit lighter here. I wonder if it's too light at the moment. Let's pick up some of this colour down here. And then I'm just spreading the paint I've already got on here with some water. And I know you're not supposed to be to use loads and loads of water with your acrylics, but because it won't bind to the surface. But if I put some gloss medium or something on top of that, then it should just bind it fine. Might be a bit too textured, but I can always add more opacity after.
If you like this video, consider subscribing.
Any questions? Do I want? I think I do want it to go all the way across. I quite like the effect it makes with the creates with the water. I think all of that green needs to be more orange. I'm gonna add some pure magenta with the yellow, and I'll also add some glazing liquid again. So quite a bit of glazing liquid with the pink and the yellow, and also some water to make it a bit more fluid. I only want a thin glaze, so this is too much. So I'm probably going to rub away some of that. Or try and spread it over here. And sort of scrape away a little bit with my brush. So here, this is also very green. Maybe even go over a little bit of what I've just done to make it a bit more harmonious. Now there's still a little bit of blue, and I'm contemplating whether to leave some of that, because I do quite like it. And then I'll dab a little bit this away. And I can always add some more. I want to show a bit more of the texture underneath. And I've lost some of the yellow here actually. Let's see if I can bring that back with a little bit of dabbing. Could even make that a bit bigger by adding some pure yellow, but blending it a bit more. Maybe even a little bit up here. And this little dot could do with a hint of yellow. Down here as well, a little bit more. So wherever there's already the colour, that colour, I just try to enhance it a little bit. It might be too much though down here. And I think this pink might be too intense. Maybe I'll add some more yellow here, but I'll leave it for now. Here I think I'm also going to go over with light colours. So I'll start again with the more bluish colour. And just checking if there's anything I really like. I do like this down here, this texture. Also kind of this, but this is pastel, so it's probably got to... It's fairly well fixed, but it's probably going to disappear. There's also some nice texture here, and I really like this texture weirdly. But on this one I don't really like all that. This is quite interesting actually. And even though I probably will want some darker areas later, I'll add some lightness first because I don't want them this dark. And again, I'll use some of this other colour, the more beigey one. And I've been a bit too careful again, so I'm just going to do one mark without thinking. And see how I respond to that. Cut this. I quite like this bit here with the more muted greeny colour. I also really don't like this down here. I think maybe I should change some of the colours first before I do this. This one's quite distracting here. Oh, I think also this bit, even though I quite like some of this texture here. Quite like this little stipple texture. Yeah, I think this pink is very distracting. I'm going to paint that over with some brown. I use a slightly smaller brush for that, using the burnt umber for that. Don't need to get too precise here because I'm not quite at the stage where everything needs to be perfect. And I still want to invite some happy accidents, which only really happen if I'm not too careful. Even some of the blue I think is too blue, so I'm going to add some burnt umber to those bits as well. And I'll mix some with a bit of glazing fluid for up here. And I'm always leaving a little bit of that colour, like I left some blue, very bright blue bits here. There's also a bright blue here, which I haven't decided yet if I find that too distracting. And now I really like this bit actually. It's standing out a lot more now. And then once the colours aren't really bothering me that much, I can start thinking a bit more about the composition. I think I need to bring a little bit more of a darker colour back. So I think down here I want to add a slightly lighter version of that brown. So maybe just a glaze of the brown. A bit of pink so it's not such a poopy colour. Maybe even a bit of the blue. It's not quite the right colour. So this is basically connecting this dark shape with this darker shape to create one larger dark, which compositionally is a bit better. And I want this to be a bit warmer. So I'll use my light colour brush again and put some of that more yellow. And I also think this is distracting, this dark shape. I think I want to cover all of that with the yellowish colour. I'll add a bit of water first so it can blend a bit better. Already feels much more spacious. And now I think this could be again a bit more like this, but not as, a bit more grey. So I think I'll need to pre-mix something here. Probably with the blue and brown. I could even make some of it a bit darker. Let's get some of that dark blue that I mixed. Definitely more pink, magenta. Oh, I quite like the two-tone effect that I'm getting here. That wasn't planned. That was a happy accident. And I also want a little bit of pink in here. Now I think that this needs to be also darker, and maybe even darker than it is already. So I'll have the brown first. Oh, that's not bad actually. Some more pink. A bit of the blue. And then here I want it to be a bit warmer as well. I think this could benefit from having a little blue tint over it. Maybe if I do use some of this pre-mix, just very diluted. So it's warmer here and then gets cooler again down here. This one, quite like these little dots from the finger painting. I think this one could maybe potentially be a bit darker, but I might still add some light first. Start with the more yellowy colour. I do want to cover most of this blue. I do like the blue mixed with other colours, but don't really like it on its own. On this one, I think I'll already go in with a different colour. I use this red here. I will use the same brush with the white on, so it's kind of, or not white, with the light colour, so it's gonna kind of mix. It might be a little bit too candy coloured now, but I can change that later. Quite like what's happening there. There's a little bit of that down here as well. It's not so alien. Maybe I'll cover this blue. Some more dotty marks somewhere. And then just gently blending it into this area. I also haven't used any collage yet. I wonder if I should add some of that here, or if I need to calm them down first. The few that I really liked with this one, which is very different, and this one. I wonder if I should glaze that whole piece with this yellow, because it's very pinky for that. I think it needs to dry a bit more. I also made some papers in a solid colour, which could, it will become transparent when I add it. So I could try some of that and then glaze over the rest. I've also got these marks, but I definitely don't need any more marks on this. It needs to be a bit calmer. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go for it and add some of this up here. Maybe just like that. For that I'm going to use some gloss medium. This is a Liquitex one, which I'll just use as glue. And cool. Could use a brush, but I like using these catalyst blades for that. I'll just use this lid. And I just like to make sure that I've got it everywhere. Some of this paint is not dry yet. You could also put it on the collage piece, but I find this is easier. It helps if you wet it a little bit actually. Just going to use my spray bottle. But it will also make it a bit more fragile, but this is wet strength tissue paper, so it shouldn't be too fragile. I don't really care if there's any bubbles or anything. It's not quite enough medium underneath here. It would probably be easier to do that on a flat surface, on a table. So I didn't do very much, but I definitely think it's going to help. If I put a glaze over everything, it will make everything look a bit more like this. So I've dried it a bit with a hairdryer. So now I can put a glaze over it. Some of it might still be a little bit damp when I move it, but it feels okay. I'm going to use the yellow. So I've got some glazing fluid. Actually, I might mix some in a little tub. Just mix some of the glazing fluid, some of the yellow and some water. And then I also want to wipe away some of that so it's a bit thinner. Mainly in the areas that were already a bit warmer. Or where I want to show more of the texture. This has had some time to dry now, and I want to streamline a few of the areas. So I think this I'm going to make even more of a solid yellow colour. Might even get my other yellow back out. And then this is going to be more orange. I'll start with the more orangey tone. For that I think I'm basically going to add some pink magenta to that pre-mixed yellow. Some of the yellow here. Add a little magenta. And then this pinkish area, I think I also want to turn a bit more into the orange, maybe even make it a bit darker. Yeah, I'll mix some burnt umber into that as well. And then kind of blend it in with this. And enough. I might move that orange up a little bit. Also maybe change the direction a little bit, so not everything's so horizontal. And then up here I want this to be more solid yellow, for which I'm actually going to use the yellow oxide that I've used to mix into those colours before, the pre-mixed colours. It's quite an opaque yellow actually, this, so that should help cover a lot of it. And just because I really like doing it, I'll also scratch a little bit into the wet paint here. Yeah, I like the brightness of those for now. And then I think down here I want to make this a bit darker. So I'm going to use the burnt umber and possibly even a little bit of the dark blue. I've got this pre-mixed dark blue, which is basically just phthalo blue and burnt umber, and then mix a little of that in with the burnt umber to make it darker. I think I want this to be a little bit more transparent. Just use this cutter display to take some of it off, make it even a bit darker, so some more of the blue. I don't really want to cover a lot of this texture, I just want the colours to be a bit more harmonious. Especially down here there isn't that much texture, so I can add a bit more there. Might add a little bit more of the pink and yellow mixture here. I want this to be a bit more of a pinky brown, so get some more of the burnt umber and some more magenta. You notice the further I get with my layers, the more I want to mix my colours and not use the pre-mixed ones so much, because I want to get a bit more specific with my colours. I like the edges that it created here, but I do want to blend where it went further down. A little bit more water, so it's a bit more transparent for now. I want to keep some of these dots. Change some of this blue to a bit more brown as well. Just wanted to do a little bit more on this one before I finish for the day. I think I could do with a lot of lightness here. Also this, I'm not sure keen on this brown still. I think it might be too light, this.
I really like where these paintings are heading. They still need to be resolved further, but I can feel them getting much closer to being finished. Stay tuned to see how they develop further. Do you also take elements that you like and translate them into other parts of your work? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see how these paintings started, I've created a playlist where you can watch the progress of the series so far. Click the link in the description box. Thanks and bye bye.
Seagulls are very loud today. Maybe I'll close that window.